All right, here are a few questions from Monday's assignment where they ask you here to make y the subject of each equation that you're given. Notice these are formulae, so you don't have any, you barely have any numbers involved. On this one, obviously you do, but it's mostly letters, okay? And so when it says make y the subject, that means in each of these questions you want to get y all by itself, okay? I'm going to show you one method first that I've used in a different video as well. Which is the function machine method. Okay, so what you can do is start by writing each equation as a function machine using y first as your input, because what we want to eventually do is flip that around so that y will become the subject or the output. All right, so if I make y the input of a function machine here, I'm going to rewrite this equation exactly as I see it. So I have plus w, so I take y, then I add w to that. I'm going to put it in a box. And then the result is this output c. But see, what I want to do now is flip that function machine around so that I can make y the output. So that means I'm going to take c and I'm going to reverse everything that I see in the function machine. So if I have plus w, I know the opposite of plus is minus. So that means I take minus w, and that gives me the result of y. Okay. So what I can do from this step here is just take this second function machine that I've written going this way and write it exactly as I see it. So I start with c, and taking c, I would subtract w from c. So that means I do minus w, and that gives me, this arrow implies result, so the result or equals y, which is now my output, okay? So now I've essentially made y the subject of this equation, okay? What I could do is flip it around and put y on the left side, and then c, take away w, make sure c comes first before w, to make sure that my answer looks nice with the variable or the output on the left side. Okay, so that's one way that we could solve these equations. Sometimes they get a little bit more complicated, and the function machine is not always the easiest thing to do, and sometimes I know it's a little bit annoying to write out the entire function machine, but I thought it might be a good option for some of you who are struggling a little bit with this, okay? I will make a separate video, I think, showing you like the proper way of solving equations, because that's what I've done with the other types, but in this situation I think it might be kind of easy for us to use this method. Okay, so looking at question B, writing the function machine, remember I choose y to start because that's what I eventually want to be my output result. So I'm using y as the input. And then the next thing that happens to y in this equation, if you read it out loud, y minus p. So I'm going to write minus p, and then that gives me m. That's our output, right? So if I flip that around, I start with m. I reverse my arrow going to the left. The opposite of minus p is plus p. And then flip the arrow around, that gives me y. If you want to, you could just bring this y down here, and then write this is equal to, starting with m though, so the rest of this you have to start with the left side, or sorry, the right side, starting with this because the arrows are facing this way, m plus p, and that would be your answer. All right, notice how if we're going from here to here, everything is just kind of opposite, y equals, and then we take m and we add p to get our result answer, okay? Okay, last two questions that I'll work in this video, C and O. All right, here we have an extra, we kind of have a little bit more going on because we have this minus 2. So when we write our function machine, actually it's not going to be too terrible, is it? We start with y, and then I'm going to subtract, here I'm going to subtract 2g. Okay, we keep those together, and that gives us the result of n. That's our output. Then if I wanted to rewrite it and swap it all around, I start with n, I do the opposite of minus 2g, which is plus 2g, and then that gives me the result of y. So remember, we can bring down just y, and then the rest of this I'll write as the equation or the expression that y is equal to. So I start from the right side with n, and then I plus 2g to that, and that gives us our answer. That's all there is to it. Okay. This last one might be a little bit more complicated. I want you to try to think about why. The reason is because there's a minus in front of this y. Okay. there's a minus in front of that y. So we need to think about something that we could do to maybe make this a little bit different, I guess. I guess if we're writing our function machine, I'll keep with the theme of this video, which is function machines. I'm going to put minus y. Minus y is what I have here. Eventually I'll have to change that at the very end, okay? So just keep that in mind. Minus y, and then really this is like minus y plus n. It's like we're adding n onto minus y, and that gives us the result of t. And then if I change that function machine and go backwards, plus n becomes minus n, so minus n. And then that would give us the result of, we're going to keep this as minus y. Okay, things are going to change after I write the equation, because I have minus y and we actually want y by itself instead of just minus y. So just bear with me here. Writing this out though, I have t take away n. All right. So I have minus y equals t, take away n, but I want plus y as my answer, right? I can't have just minus y. That's not acceptable as our answer. We're looking for y by itself, not minus y. So if I change this from minus to plus, that means everything over here will have to change as well. So this positive t becomes a negative t, and this negative n becomes a positive n. That's not a very nice way of writing that. It looks kind of sloppy with this minus value first. So what I'm going to do is rewrite this as n coming first and then minus t coming second. All right, that one's a little bit more complicated. I want you to maybe kind of spend some time playing with it and kind of see how you feel about it. But I think eventually with time, it really just takes time and practice to make sure that you understand these questions. This is only one method that you can use to work these out. As it gets more complicated, this method isn't always the easiest thing to use, as you could see with this question here. We had to do some swapping around at the very end. So I'll be posting more videos, and I will be showing you how to work the proper method. Actually, I think I'll show you another video with all of these questions, working with the proper method of solving an equation, just so you can see it and get the hang of it.